There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side.
That was President Trump at the Republican National Convention last year, recounting, just days after it happened, the attempt on his life. Sunday marks 1 year since a 20-year-old gunman came within inches of killing then-candidate, of course, former President Trump at one of his campaign rallies in Butler, Pennsylvania. The gunfire, we should note, took the life of firefighter Corey Compratore and injured 2 others in attendance. Joining me now, former Deputy Director of the United States Secret Service, A.T. Smith, and our Justice Department reporter, Jake Rosen, who was at that rally, along with Olivia Rinaldi and Scott McFarlane. And I know you were traumatized then, you were traumatized now, so we're going to tread lightly on this, but your thoughts a year later, Jake, about what went on there?
I mean, I think our colleagues at CBS have done a really good job of talking to people in the Secret Service about the security failures that day, which Olivia and our crew and Scott and I all saw that day. When we as reporters go to things in the position that we were in, we're bringing cameras, tripods, etc. There were no bomb-sniffing dogs that day, which is something that happens at the 100 or so plus rallies we went to. There's always a time where you bring your stuff through the magnetometers, you put your stuff by the bomb dogs. We noticed that wasn't there. We noticed there weren't enough police officers to hand out water that day in the crowd. And Secret Service officers usually kind of facilitating just general public safety, right? Those baseline things that in a field, it was about 90 degrees that day, no sun cover, people were hot, passing out in the crowd. We were handing out water. Our security that day was handing out water that was just kind of left there. It seemed like something was generally off.
Something was just missing, and you could see it throughout.
And I think just like anything in life, when you are at enough of something, you know that something feels off. Cell service was limited, things like that, which just felt weird to us.
A.T., the Secret Service calls it an operational failure. Jake's observations, even beforehand, said something was off. Something was clearly off that day.
It was. And I think, the good news now is that the Secret Service has accepted full responsibility for that, for it being off, for things not being up to speed. I mean, there were very basic advanced procedures that weren't addressed. I mean, the communications issue, the crowd issues as far as processing and that sort of thing. The good news at the end of the day was that that counter sniper officer on top of that roof reacted in the way he did. And I would say if there is a hero, it's him, because if he had not done what he did, it would have been a lot worse.
6 suspensions of pay and benefits. The deputy director currently of the Secret Service told our Nicole Skanga, we had the soundbite on this show yesterday, the Secret Service can't fire its way out of the operational failure. You think that's a proper response?
Well, the Secret Service is under different rules, and a lot of people are not really aware of that. They're career employees. After 3 years and 120 days, they're converted. So they have some rights that obviously they can exercise that, for instance, FBI agents don't, because they're accepted service. So there's different criteria there. The Secret Service has a table of penalties for violations of policy and that sort of thing. I think it is surprising in some ways that no one was terminated. I think, the American people expected something like that, and for it to be
could have
had.
been so much worse.
Could have been worse. And, the Secret Service had not had a failure like that in 40 years, 4 decades since President Reagan was shot. So it is interesting. They will have to tiptoe around that, I think, for a while longer. It is good that they've vetted out this discipline. I hope that it's in the way that it should be. I think they should have announced it earlier, and I've said that. It would have been nice, and the American people have been waiting for a year to hear this, and I understand that this discipline took place several weeks ago. So it would have been nice to get out front.
What would you say right now, A.T., is the climate of political violence in our country? It's not just the president. We saw lawmakers in Minnesota shot, 1 killed, others severely wounded.
It's never been higher. And, it's one of the predictions I made at the beginning of the last campaign cycle, in my affiliation with CBS. I've never seen it this high. I've never seen it this sort of
not just in Washington, but across the country.
Across the country. And, it's any number of things that can happen, whether it's a direct threat, whether someone takes action, like you said, with, actually picking up a firearm and doing something, or whether it's social media. Social media platforms have blown up over the last several years with online threats and that sort of thing. The Secret Service does a good job in running all of those threats to ground and investigating them, as does other protective organizations, the Capitol Police, and other cabinet secretaries who have functions similar to that. So it has to be done.
Jake, I want to bring you back in. What has CBS News recently learned about the gunman who was killed, as AT pointed out, Thomas Crooks?
Well, in new reporting that came out today, and in addition a couple of weeks ago from our investigative unit and Scott McFarland, they uncovered kind of a pattern of a boy who had tried to kind of excel at school, was potentially looking forward to advancing a career in engineering, and at the same time as professors that CBS News spoke to talked about the work that he was doing, friends talked about the conversations they had had with him about potentially stepping up and out into a bigger university and moving on in life. At the same time, it seems like something had gone wrong with him, where he had also been communicating about ordering bomb-making materials and had followed up when those materials had not been. As we know, there was a not working explosive device in a car or a vehicle right by where Crooks had been stationed. So I think, he hadn't quite gotten there yet, but also just a general curiosity that we have not solved yet is just what exactly the motive was. We just don't know that. We know that he had searched President Biden's location, President Trump's location, and at one point had searched an AR-15 website, purchasing website directly after searching where President Trump was going to be, which was not far from, obviously, where Crooks was. In addition to where the RNC and DNC both were, because the RNC kicked off 24 hours after the attack.
Exactly. Bits of pieces of information we are trying to piece together gradually. A.T. Smith, Jake Rosen, thank you so much. I appreciate it.